Good morning, UBBOptionMillionaires.com. It's Thursday, February 19, 2015. Got a little bit of a cold here, a little stuffed up, but still going to go through with it here. As stock futures are pulling back from Greece submitting an extension to their bailout, and then Germany, supposedly, according to reports, rejecting it. So we're seeing futures retrace their gains and heading back to lows, the overnight lows, just before the European market opened for trade. We'll see what happens here. We had the meeting last week that was postponed to Monday, and then Monday, no resolution. But the market seems to just be pricing in some sort of positive resolution to this, which is pretty much what's gone on with every sort of headwind that we've seen since the lows in March 2009. Every time the market pulls back on some sort of negative news, ultimately, it just continues on its way up to record high stock prices. The recent consolidation was finally starting to break out here. And you can look, let me just pull up a chart of Twitter here. Beautiful move up. I talked about this one of my stocks to watch. 2015 moved over support, filled the gap up here. But let's look at the NASDAQ QQQ here, and you can see it's broken out of a beautiful consolidation phase. IWM as well, even a longer consolidation phase, broken out to the upside. S&P 500 remains on track for just a continuation to that spike high. It's what I talked about before the year even started. We had to pull back the start of the year, but that did not take this move up to the paint high that we saw just before the end of 2014. It's 212.97. I think that's where we're going to head ultimately. And let's look at the U.S. dollar, which on this news initially was higher and now it's pulled back a little bit. Let's just see. And you can see beautiful consolidation. This is a wonderful bull flag here for the U.S. dollar, off its lows back in the middle of 2014, tracking U.S. oil. The exact opposite. So if you look at the crude oil, which is down some 4% this morning, 3.62%. If you look for a similar perspective, gone the exact opposite way, and we have crude oil putting in what could be construed as a bear flag. So everybody talking about the bottom for oil, crude oil here, just a couple weeks ago. I don't know. To me, it looks like we're going to head back to the lows that we saw just a few weeks ago. But if you look at the U.S. dollar, to me, it looks very bullish here. Consolidating as well, and I think it's going to make a move up. I think we're going to see triple digits there. The bond market, look at TLT fading off its highs that we saw just a few weeks ago. I think we're going to see continued weakness for the bond market. And if you look, let me just pull up the TLT chart. I have some trend lines drawn here for you, and you can see we've broken through support here. And I'm looking for the next move to bring us down to about 118.50 on TLT. So yeah, we had Twitter, which looks to me setting up for a nice move back over $50 a share, possibly up to the record highs that we saw a year and a half ago, $75 plus for Twitter. Let's look at Garmin. I talked about this at the blog at OptionMillionaires.com. The main reason was we had this trendline resistance here. We got right up to it. Look what happened with the earnings report. Launched this low this morning. An analyst from Bank of America Merrill Lynch upgrading the stock to a buy. We'll see if that gets a short-term pop in the stock, but was down over 10%. Yesterday, got the 5250s, worked out to almost a 300% gain there. So it's a nice move on Garmin. I was talking about this as a stock to watch for a move to the downside in 2015, which calling for downside at any stock really these days is kind of hazardous for your investment account, but looking for a move back into the 40s. I still think that's going to happen. If you look at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, they also continue to say Tesla's a $40 stock as it's rallied 500%. But let's move on to the FEYE. The security stocks continue to work well. We have another report out this morning, hackers. We had this massive breach for a health insurance company recently. So if you look, I brought this chart up at the start of the year as a stock to watch as well when I was in the low 30s. This long-term trend line is acting as resistance, so I expect us to get up to that line. Right now, it'd be about 47.50. Look at a massive volume breakout, price breakout, heavily shorted stock. And so once we get up to this level, we might meet some resistance as we did previously. I think this time we're going to break above it. I talked about it as well as January, the start of the year, was the time when the stock started to rally last year. Look at this move up and more than doubled in price. We'll see. We could still be at the cusp of a really sharp move. These security names, PanW as well. Look at that breakout to record highs recently. So these security names still going to work. We have after the bell today, Crocs reporting earnings. And you can look, let me just pull back a longer term chart here. To me, it looks like we might see a little bit of a bounce up to the upper part of this channel here to 13. We also have Fuel reporting earnings. I love this stock here. Been really beaten down at $14.18. Another heavily shorted name that I think is starting to find a bottom here. And I would not be surprised to see a move like we saw with Angie's List up 20% to start the session. It ended up over 60%. Just a huge move. You pull all those lines out, and you can see the massive volume. Analysts are out this morning talking bullishly about Angie's List, and look at that move up. Started off the day about 625, ended up at 775. Also heavily shorted. Let's look at a couple other ETFs and stocks here. We have gold is up this morning. GLD, you can see it hit this 115 level, found support, and has since bounced. We can look here at the 112.30 level for GLD as support. It breaks through that. I think we're going to see weakness. You look, some of the gold miners as well are doing well. We have GDX trying to get up to that $25 line. We have ABX reporting earnings this morning. You know, I didn't even look this morning. I've been too busy watching stock futures to see exactly where some of these stocks are trading. And look, it's trading higher this morning. So apparently investors so far are pretty enamored with the results. Look at S&P 500 futures, but still off the lows this morning. You see a little bit of a bounce here. We had a move up as Greece announced that they were going to seek an extension, and now Germany has said they're not going to accept it. So we'll see what happens there. I think it's going to be another interesting trading session. But if you look, really, the volatility's kind of died down a little bit. The market's just been consolidating, digesting the new record high closes, and we're just kind of inching higher every day. We had the Fed minutes yesterday, and the Fed basically telling us what we already know. They're just not going to ever raise interest rates, it seems. Central banks around the globe continue to try and augment asset prices via low interest rates, negative yields. It's just an environment, if you look at it from what's been going around, all the news headlines, you wouldn't think we were at all-time record high stock prices, but yet here we are. All right, everyone, come to the chat room at optionmillionaires.com. I'll be there. It's going to be another great trading session. We'll see earnings reports starting to trickle down a little bit, but still exciting times to be trading stock option. See you then. All right, UPB. Goodbye.